guys, this is me, Malorian, and this is going to be a rant video. I know that typically I try and keep this positive and happy, and I guess I am kind of talking positive and happy, but this is just something that really irks me, and so it's actually going to take me a roundabout way to get there, but I'm going to talk about this topic, and the topic is painting in hobby, and more so in wargaming. And I'm going to talk about, first of all, why painting is awesome. I'm going to talk about why painting is bad, and then I'm going to get a little bit more specific and talk about some Warmachine specific stuff. So let's start off here and talk about why painting is awesome. Well, the first thing is that it makes models look great. You know, if you get in there, and this hobby has multiple parts, right? You first have to build your army, then you have to kind of detail it, and then you go in there and you play. Well, this place is good, and I mean, I got guys, and putting them on a board looks cool, but really to get that wow factor, you need to get that paint on the model, and then when you see it on the board, it's like, wow, this is something else. Something's going on. This is epic. This is awesome. This is something I'm going to remember. Whereas if it's just a bunch of silver and gray, you know, sure, okay, we're pushing some things around, we're using some rules, but it doesn't draw you in as much. And I think that's a big thing in some hobbies where you really need that painting, or really, you know, anything, that presentation, let's call it, to really draw you in and enjoy the game for more than just a game, right? You're actually like telling a story and you're having more fun as opposed to following rules. So that's also great. Another part why painting is awesome is a whole idea that really anyone can do it. You know, you look at guys like Bob Ross or whatever, these amazing painters, and it's just, you know what, no one's expecting you to be at that level. Look at me. I am the chumpiest of chumps when it comes to painting, but I just make it so it's good enough for the board, right? When you're looking at it from 4 feet away, you know, as long as I'm painting to numbers and put a wash on it and throw some things on it, yeah, it's going to look just great and you're good to go. So it doesn't matter if I, you know, spend hours on this or if I just quickly do something. It's going to really get to that point where it's good enough, and to that point where actually are having that suspension of disbelief and enjoying the game for more than just being a game. Past that as well, painting is just fun. You know, some days when I'm having a rough day, you know, maybe work is trouble or the wife is trouble or the kids or whatever, you know, I can come down here, I can grab a model, and I can just sit here and I can paint. And it's therapeutic and it's relaxing and it's something that's just very, very enjoyable to just sit back and do. So all those reasons is why painting is great. However, why is painting awful? Well, the first reason why is really when you're getting into it. The barrier to entry for painting is a huge problem. So if I'm a person coming in here, let's say for example, I'm getting into Warmachine. Now, when I'm talking about these things right now, it really applies to every war game. It doesn't matter if I'm talking about Infinity or Warhammer or Fantasy or Warmachine or Malifaux. All these things really apply. So let's say I'm just getting into a war game. Maybe I've previously been doing video games or card games or whatever it is, and now this is my first time getting into a war game. The idea of painting can be very daunting. Even though I just said that everybody can do it and blah, 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 you don't think that walking in. Plus, you're not even sure if you want to get into it. You know, if I've gone here and it's like, wow, this game looks really neat, and I buy my models, and look, I got my models here, let's play and see if it works out. If somebody was to be there and tell you, sorry, your stuff's not painted, you can't play, well, screw you. You know, really? I haven't even decided if this is the game for me, and you're going to turn me away? Now, keep in mind as I'm talking about this is an absolute. You know, typically this is something where it's a little bit more in the gray area where, sure, you don't need to be painted, come in here and you can play at this casual day or do this, but at other times you are required, depending on the community in the game, the blah, 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 blah. It's more of an idea of, no, if you want to play, you have to be painted. And when you get to that level, it's it can be a huge negative play experience. One personal one that I can share here is that when I was young and fresh and just into 40K, I thought, okay, I'm just new into this. I'm not hot on painting, so I went with Necrons. Necrons are basically like Terminators from the movies. Make them all silver, do a little bit of red and green work, and you're done. Well, I picked them. I had these cool looking models. At the store, there was this event, which was just like a small little store event, right? So no big deal. It was going to be like a little arena where everyone just brings a small little unit and they fight, and it's going to be awesome. I actually painted my guys up because, hey, why not? You know, they're simple. I can get them done really fast. Easy. I go into the store, and I almost got kicked out. And I almost got kicked out because my models weren't based. And because of that barrier, that was just a kick in the face. That was just, wow, I could not believe that I'd be turned away for that. Now, in the end, the store employee did change their mind and let me play. But I gotta say, if I got excited for this game, bought this stuff, put it together, took the time to do something with it, bring it in, and you're going to kick me out and say I can't play? Screw this game. I'm going to do something else. You know, I might not be doing this right now. And again, that's basing. We're talking about painting. But same thing. If I would have gone in there, my stuff's not painted, well, I would for sure be turned away then. And yeah, that would be just a very huge negative play experience. So that's bad right there. Now, the next level of painting that really kind of irks me is a little bit of the elitism to it. As I said, anyone can paint. It's the great thing about painting. Grab a brush, stick it in some pots of paint, put it on a model, boom, you're a painter. However, there are grades to painting, and some people are way better painters than those down here. Now, I'm going to put this in two different ways, but there is perceived elitism, and then there's also applied elitism. So just know that this might not always be in this situation or that situation, but this is certainly something that can definitely come out. Now, like I said, a person coming into the game that wants to paint things up, if they look out and see like, okay, well, I have to paint, well, what are people painting? If they see models that are amazingly painted, well, sure, there's a part of them saying like, oh, it'd be cool to do that, but there's also that part in their head that says, I can never do that. Really? That's what this is? This is painting? Yeah, I don't think so. This is not... That is more the perceived elitism. They see this, they see that level, and it's awesome. It's awesome that people are great painters and they do so well in this, but the fact that people then look at that can be another barrier to entry. When you walk in and just see this masterpiece, it's like, no matter what I do, it's going to look like garbage. So whereas I could have before sat down, painted a model, and been like, yes, that's purple and green. Well, now I'm going to look at this and say, no, this is just some paint splashed on a model. It's gross. I don't want to show this. I don't want to bring it to the store. Oh, God. And it's just like that. Now, the other part that can be the applied elitism is when those who are the very strong painters really kind of push their beliefs on others. If they just start really pushing it and saying, hey, you know, painting's really easy. You should be doing this. What's wrong with you? Come on, let's get this stuff painted. That's not helping anything. You know, typically, if there is that area where you are having to have things painted, it's because of these people. And the worst thing is that they have the best intentions. They love the painting part of the hobby, and to them, everyone should do the painting part of the hobby. I just told you, painting is awesome, and everyone can do it. But when you have someone cramming it down your throat, you're naturally going to want to throw it back up. And so, again, that's not in all cases. I mean, it's not like I'm saying you have to go back to your group and point to like, yeah, that's the elitist right there. It might not be there, but that certainly is another problem that starts happening in these. Of course, when there's layers and there's people on the top, they're going to start giving their ideas down. And if perceived elitism was already an issue, the applied is just going to make it worse. Now, let's also now talk about the whole idea that this is a multifaceted hobby. So, like I said, going into it, there is the building, there is the painting, there is the playing, and me as a person does not necessarily need to fully invest myself into all those parts. So if I'm a person who comes into this and I just love to build things, maybe I used to build, the airplanes or the cars or the trains, and I'm like, yeah, building these dudes and tanks looks cool, let's do it. There is no need that I need to paint. There is no need that I need to play. I can do that part of the hobby, and that's my hobby, and that's okay. What if I want to go into this and, you know what, I'm a painter. I love painting, and I want to come in here and I get these models, and I want to make this look beautiful. But at the end of the day, I don't want my masterpiece on the board getting chipped and stuff, and you know what, I'm not so much for building them and having to get rid of the lines and stuff. I'm just going to buy them built, and I'm going to paint them, I'll put them on a shelf, and they're going to look wonderful. That's fine too, sure, no problem. Of course, the last one is the gamer, where it's like, okay, sure, I at some point things have to get built, and I guess maybe painted, I don't know, but I'm just really in this to play. So can I just like get these models and then I can play? And that's all right too. And the idea that someone has to do all these things to be a hobbyist just isn't true. You know, if you go out there and say that, one of the things that came up with this is somebody brought up a triathlon. And if I say that I do a triathlon, but I don't like to swim or shoot a gun or that type of a thing, right? How can I say I'm a triathlete? It's more so saying that I'm an Olympian. And to be an Olympian, I don't have to enjoy running or doing the long jump or whatever. I'm an Olympian if I can throw that hammer really far. I'm an Olympian if I'm a really fast swimmer. I'm a hobbyist if I enjoy any one of those things of the hobby. My wife on the other side of this wall really enjoys doing mixed media and, scrapbooking and stuff like that. She's a hobbyist too. And you don't see us like sneering at each other because, she's not painting the little parts that she uses for the mixed media, right? We're not sneering at each other because I'm not taking my guys and making them into a collage, right? No, these are two separate hobbies. We're both hobbyists, and the idea that you have to mash these all together is just silly. And I think that's where sometimes you get into some real problems where I can now talk to as a TO, is where people start thinking that this is a hobby. I want to encourage the full hobby, so let's go for an overall. This game is not going to be based off just who wins. This game is also going to be based off who is the best sport, who is the best painter, who is the best blah, blah, blah. And we'll combine these and make it so you get an overall score. And that can be very, very dangerous. I know that when I first, again, got into the hobby, I did actually start getting into it. I was like, okay, I need to paint, guys. I started painting, and I wasn't amazing, but I got stuff done. And I actually got some really good painting scores. After a while, I actually won some Best Painted, which is crazy. The idea that I won Best Painted not once, but twice is just insane. But hey, it kind of worked out okay, and I was a friendly guy, I painted okay, so in the end, my overall score kind of aligned with where my general score should be anyway, so it wasn't a big deal. But then that's when you start getting into the algorithms and the numbers behind it. It's very easy to score a tournament based off who won and who lost and how many control points you got, or objectives, or depending on what system you're playing, victory points. But when you start introducing these other things, you're introducing an algorithm, and the way you apply that algorithm is going to be your own and can be debated and will be a source of controversy. So for one example there, later on, I went to one algorithm where the painting requirements went way up. So whereas before, let's say having a fully painted army that was, had all the colors on there and the main details were done, it would give me a score of 4 out of 5, and that's awesome. Well, now, because there's not shading and highlighting and freehand and blah, 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 now I'm getting a 2 out of 6. And when you start applying then that algorithm, my overall falls way down compared to what my general normally would be. And that started getting very frustrating, Sure, I could go in there and I could just try and get the best damn general score I could, but the fact that I was being slapped because I wasn't a super painter was extremely frustrating. The idea that I could go in there and literally spend hours and hours and hours painting hundreds and hundreds of models was just ridiculous when I'm not then at the end given a fair score for it. I'm not saying I should be given the top score, but if I'm making that requirement, shouldn't I at least be getting an average score? If I'm going in, I'm not just doing the average, but I'm making sure to dot the I's and the rest too, shouldn't I not just be a little bit over average? The idea that I'd be doing all this and it's saying like, oh, well, you didn't do all these extra things, I guess you're down here. Wow, that is crazy insulting. And it got to the point where I started thinking like, well, who even cares what I bring to this tournament, because I'm not going to have a chance at the top anyway. And those algorithms, again, can be a real problem. We can get into the sportsmanship side as something different. I mean, that's a different part where it can come in. But another idea where this comes in as the TO side is that best painted can be very subjective. And trying to apply it over to armies can be very problematic. Here's the first one that's going to come as a TO. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to run a tournament. I'm going to say, everybody, take out your armies, put them down. We're going to vote for who's the best painted. All right, that's great. People are going to go out there and vote, 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 vote. And in theory, at the end, whoever was the best painted will get the most votes from their peers, and they're going to win best painted. And maybe then I could take their votes and apply it to a score and blah, 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 blah. However, those systems get worked. People, when they can vote for stuff, vote for their buddies more than people who are somebody else. I've seen crazy situations where people just say like, hey, let's all vote for this guy, and so he just wins by a landslide when he really shouldn't. Hell, we had another one where me and my brother were having a laugh, and we put votes in for an army that wasn't even painted. And because of that, he actually scored pretty high, because some other people got in on the joke too. And so whenever you have that where it can be really abused, that's a problem. Now locally, we had an answer to that where the TOs would go out there and they'd actually be specifically picking out some different armies and saying, okay, well, out of all of them, these are the ones that are legit. So, okay, there's 50 of us here. Here's the top 5. Vote on those top 5. That still doesn't matter. People can still just vote for their friends, and it doesn't really change anything, right? You get away from the stupid, like, I'm going to vote for the unpainted one, but you still get the whole thing where I'm more voting for my friends, and it's more of a popularity contest rather than a painting. Another interesting thing, too, when you get to this type of voting thing, is that even when people are being ethical, and they're not voting for their friends or anything like that, sometimes, or I'm not going to say sometimes, I'm going to say almost all the time, people are going to be voting for what's not the best painted. They're going to be voting for what looks the best. And the very big difference in that is that if I was to grade someone on being a skilled painter, I want to be looking at things like, what are their painting techniques? How well do they blend this? How well do they use colors? All these types of things that you would think like a school teacher would look at. However, when you give me a vote, and I'm looking over all these armies, and I'm trying to decide which one looks the best and I'm going to give this to, it's not going to be this darkly painted army, it's going to be this bright army. So all of a sudden, the whole idea that somebody painted something brightly so it catches your eye more than something else that might be better painted but darker, they're going to get the bump? That doesn't seem very right. How about the idea where, oh, these ones here are converted. So again, they're really grabbing the eye. Wow, that's amazing. Look at that conversion. It just grabs your eye. I'm going to vote for that guy. Maybe it's not the best painted, but because it grabbed your eye and it was bright and different, you voted for it. And again, you're not then voting for best painted. You're voting for the best looking model, the one that caught your eye the most, and some people also then just change it to being best presentation, so that despite conversions or movement trays or dioramas you make around it, sure, I guess that all will just kind of go into that and be presentation, but even that doesn't really help things because of popular vote and all that. The other one that gets past that and is almost the best way to go and vote for painting is then to have skilled review. So in skilled review, you actually have experts who are going to go through and they're going to be grading based on a criteria, and that way everyone will get a fair score. Two problems with that. One, painter bias. Again, you'll have a painter who will look at something, and if they really more appreciate shades or blends or whatever technique, it's like, oh wow, they use this technique, I'm going to give this a little bit more. That bias can come into there, but that's actually more minor. The biggest issue with this is the whole idea where it takes a long time. If, as a TO, if I want to go and say, everybody go out, vote for your favorite army, throw in the box, boom, 5 minutes, we're done. If I need a team of experts to go through and mark every single one, wow, it takes a long time. At Brawler Bash, when I went to that one, that's what they used there. They had a team, and they're going to go out there, and they had to go and grade every single one and bring it in. And when I talked to those people who did the grading, they said it was a nightmare because they had to spend an hour and a half just staring at models to be like, okay, this has this and this has that, and trying to give us fair grade. And then you'd have things like, well, this model was painted at this grade, but this model was not, so do I give it an average score, and how do I score it? Man, it was a nightmare for them. So even the idea of trying to grade this so you can actually use it properly is a nightmare. And so that's another problem with painting, is when you try and reward it, just trying to reward it is a massive problem. So I think I'm going to cut it off there for the bad of painting, because I've been going over that for a little while now. Now, let's get to the next problem, which is the whole idea that Warmachine is bad as a hobby, or not bad as a hobby, let's say is a lower hobby, or should be looked down on because it does not require painting. And man, I mean, I hear this from a couple of different YouTubers, a couple of different podcasts, and I gotta say that whenever I hear it, it just pisses me off, because one of the reasons, like for one, the reasons I just said, and for two, it's not even right. You know, I can look around and I can look at the people who do Warmachine, and it follows the same argument as people who play Warmachine are just in it to win at all cost. The hell? The same people that are playing Warmachine are the same people that are playing any other game. When the people who left, say, Fantasy or 40K and looked for another game and came to Warmachine, they're the same person. They didn't magically get changed or whatever. They're the same people. You know, even if they didn't leave and they're playing both, they're the same goddamn people. It's not like there's like these, you know, evil other like alien race that came down and they're the evil ones playing Warmachine. They're your same buddies that played these other games, but because, you know, it's seen as different and whatever this idea got out there, Warmachine is all super competitive. And along with that too, Warmachine, it's all just gray figures and nobody paints their things. No, the same people that painted their stuff there in 40K, in Fantasy, and whatever else are the same people who are painting their stuff over here. I went, and I am currently running the Tale of Warmachine Painters. And what that is a community thing where people paint. There's a challenge to paint a certain amount every single month so that at the end of a year, you have a fully painted army. And so far into this yearly tale, we're only 2 months in, and we've already painted 2,000 points. And this is just in my small little city. Everyone is loving the hobby. Everyone is loving the paint. There is just nothing in the official package that says you need to paint. And so sure, when you go to events, people will go there and sometimes they'll have gray armies. Some people will have silver armies. But like I already said, these are the people that are new to the hobby, just don't like painting, or there's somebody who does like painting but wants to try something different. Now, when I go painting, my trenchers aren't fully painted. My steelhead riflemen aren't painted. If you come to me and say that I'm a person who doesn't value painting, I'm probably going to slap you. I have painted thousands of models at this point, and so to say that I'm not a painter is just completely wrong. You know, the idea that now that I have Mark III, so I'm using different models, and so there's something different that I'm putting into my list, and at the same time, maybe I am painting Guild Ball. I got fully painted Guild Ball. Do you care about that? No? Well, then shut up. You know, the fact that I'm now dealing that I have, you know, kids and a life, and I also am going to have another third kid on the way, does that not go and say I can't just go and delegate everything to painting? No? Get out of here. I don't care about your opinion then. So this is what irks me, right? And so I think it's more gets into an everyone else versus Warmachine, especially not everyone else. I should just say GW versus Warmachine, where when you have it so that Warmachine is this idea where things should be painted and blah blah blah. The company has been really pushing it, events have been pushing it, local people have been pushing it, and then they see this new game Warmachine come in. First of all, you're going to have a negative feeling towards them because it's something that's stealing your buddy. You know, this guy used to play 40K with me, now he went to Warmachine. Warmachine's stupid. I can't believe stupid Warmachine. Look at it. It's a dumb game. So you get a lot of that, right? People just look at that stuff. Then they go and they get, you know, little piddly, feeble arguments like, oh, look at those rules. Look at page 5. Oh, you know, like play like you got a pair. Look at these guys. They just play the win. They don't play for fun or anything. Oh, look at their rules. They're not even forced to paint. They're lazy. They don't even put any effort. Shut up. That's not true. So that's really going to be my rant. You know, painting is a wonderful thing, but it can also be a real problem if you push it too far. At the end of the day, model building is awesome, painting is awesome, and playing is awesome. And if you like to do any one or more of those things, you're awesome. And when it comes to a tournament, just reward everything separately, right? That's why Warmachine now has their normal awards like they always have for who wins first, second, third, blah, blah, blah. And now there's a best painted and it's a best sportsman and everyone can live happy, right? It's crazy. You know, you look at Warmachine and I go to a tournament and most people are painted anyway. You go to look at the WTC, the World Team Championships. Everyone's painted. You look at local large events. You're going to be painted. It's just people like their stuff looking good. We just don't force you to do it. So just have fun, everyone, right? Don't go and force people and shame people about painting. Just enjoy the hobby and respect that different people like different parts of the hobby. So there you go. Hopefully you liked watching this. I know it was a rare, more rant negative video for me, but I had to get this off my chest. And please put your comments down below. I'm sure this will turn into flame wars down below and people will have many different opinions, but I've tried being as fair as possible. So please put your comments down below. I'll do my best to reply and we'll catch you later. Bye.